because the management and transparency is what's very important. So once you submit a referral, you're going to have your own Home Advantage account, and it's going to tell you where everything sits. So if you have 10 referrals that you've sent into the network, it's going to give you all 10 referrals. It's going to tell you every milestone that that client is sitting in, whether they're touring homes, whether they're in escrow. And you now can manage through the Home Advantage application as far as what your pipeline looks like for the referrals that you've sent. And so it's pretty sophisticated, and it's all click of a button, guys.
LabCoatAgents podcast.
Social geniusers. That's what I'm going to call you. I don't know if that's a word or not, but we have a different podcast episode where, as if you're watching, and most of you probably aren't, you're just listening, but to my left is not the typical gentleman that you've come to expect. It is not Tristan. We have a guest today, which isn't as common on our Drunk on Social podcast, but this gentleman reached out to us, and he is talking about concepts. I don't call them concepts, actual, new strategies, new actual things that are coming into our world that I believe we all need to be paying very close attention to. And selfishly, I want to learn about it myself as a creator, as a practitioner, because I want to be out ahead. And that's why all of you are here, is to stay out of head. So welcome to the show, Alan Taylor. We're going to be going deep on Web3 today, but not just Web3. You've heard about that. More specifically, how Web3 and social media are going to play a role in our lives and the opportunities that exist. So Alan, welcome to the show. And let's start here. I'd like you to just introduce yourself. Tell us about yourself. Who are you? What have you done in your career to lead you up to where you are today that made you write this book? So tell us about you.
Great. Great question. Well, I've been an online marketer full-time since 2006. And before that, I was a journalist, a newspaper editor. Won some awards doing that, enjoyed it. But, like every industry, it transforms with new technology. And so everything went online. I launched a freelance writing business. So I've been doing a lot of blog posts. I've written over 10,000 blog posts, a lot of white papers. I've ghostwritten some books for some clients. Done a lot of writing online, and like everyone else, I use social media to promote my business. And so a couple of years, about 4 or 5 years ago, I had a client that wanted me to edit a couple of publications, and one of them happened to be about this new technology called blockchain technology, cryptocurrencies, and that kind of thing. And I didn't know anything about it, but I agreed and learned a lot over the next couple of years while editing that publication, and discovered these new Web3 social media platforms. And I just got intrigued by that and started researching them and looking at them and playing around on them, and decided to write a book about it.
Awesome. Awesome. And so as you talk about kind of your history here, first of all, you mentioned the word newspaper, which I'll oftentimes joke about anybody who still gets a newspaper, which it's almost like it's a, I don't know how I would even describe it. It's almost like it just keeps people in the yesteryear, if you will. It's like
Yeah.
they don't do it so much for the news, other than just have the feel of the newspaper in their hands. And I don't know about you, Alan, but I think it's only a matter of time before they are completely extinct, other than being a novelty. But as you progressed into your career, I mean, it sounds to me like you had some foresight. So you're speaking our language here, and now here you are with some serious foresight on Web3. Tell us a little bit more about the online marketing and that sort of thing that you have done, especially as it relates to social.
Yeah. Well, just like everyone else, I have a Facebook account. I have a Twitter account and LinkedIn. Those are my 3 primary channels, because I do a lot of business to business type writing. LinkedIn is a very big channel for me, so I spend a lot of time there. Twitter is more of a playground for me. There's a huge crypto community on Twitter, and I'm connected to that. My new account, I had an older account that I played around in for a long time, was more literary. But then I abandoned it a few years ago, and Twitter doesn't have a way for you to go easily manage your followers. And so I started a new account, and my new account doesn't reflect the time that I've spent. If you look at my followers, it doesn't look like I've been on there for a decade, but I have. And then Facebook is more where I connect with family, and it's also sort of a literary place for me to promote my books and such as that. So I do play around on social media, but I'm not, since I'm a writer, I don't do a lot of the video, the Instagram and the TikTok and that kind of thing that a lot of the younger folks are into. Those are great platforms, but not my gig. So I stick more to the text-based platforms.
Since you mentioned that, I have to ask before we get into the Web3, what is your take, and have you dabbled at all with Threads, which is basically a TikTok or a Twitter lookalike?
Yeah, no, I haven't done that. And the reason is because I really am moving more toward Web3, and I'm spending more and more of my time on the Web3 platforms, moving more away from the Web2 platforms. I spend less time on Facebook. I'm still connected on LinkedIn because of my freelance writing client base. And on Twitter, like I said, it's just a playground for me at this point. But I suspect there may be a day when I just cut ties with these platforms altogether and just go full blown Web3.
I love it. So let's digress for a second and talk a little bit about the difference and what all this means, because I know a lot of consumers have heard the terms Web 1.0, which was, roughly the 1990s, maybe early 2000s. Then it went to 2.0, which is really still exists today.
Mhm.
And then now we're talking about, 3.0, which has really been around for a while, but it really hasn't been mainstream yet. So can you from a almost like a scientific standpoint, can you articulate in commoner terms so that people like me can understand what is this? What is this Web 1.2.3.0? What is all this?
Yeah, great question. So the early days of the web, what we call Web 1, was very static. You could build a website if you were an internet user in those early days. You could go to a website and you could read what was on the page. You couldn't do a whole lot else. You could click a link and go to another web page, and that was about it. It was read only, what we call read only. Then Web 2 came along around 1997. A website called 6 Degrees launched, and it's typically called the first social media platform. And suddenly you could interact with the web page, and so you could leave a comment on somebody's profile on 6 Degrees. And then we had other platforms pop up that allowed you to interact. You can watch videos, and so Web 2 became this read write type of atmosphere, what we have now, where publishers and readers or content consumers could both interact with each other on the same platform, on the same page, and sometimes in real time. Web 3 goes a little step further, and we call it, read, write, monetize, or, read, write, publish. And it takes the Web 2 concept to the next level. And what you have is more control over your content if you're a publisher, and if you're a consumer of content. A lot of times you can earn an income or monetize content that you did not produce, that someone else produced, in the same manner, or through royalties, and some means. There is a value layer added to the internet as we know it.
Okay, I don't know that everyone will fully understand what that means. So when you're talking about 2.0 and it's, the central, you use the word centralized on 2.0 versus decentralized on 3.0. Can you break that down in a simpler form to understand what that means?
Yeah. So, yeah, centralized platforms have the ability to sort of box you in where you are. So if you take Facebook, for example, it's like a walled garden. You go in, you sign up, they have terms of service. If you violate their terms of service, they can shut you down, uh, demonetize you, deplatform you. You can spend years building up your following, and then all of a sudden, because you violated some policy you may not even known was a policy, all of a sudden you've lost your audience, you lost your account, now you got to start over. Many of these Web3 platforms don't have that ability. They're what we call decentralized. And so what that means is there is no hierarchy or no organization that is in control of your account that can shut you down. So the Hive platform, for instance, is a social blogging platform. You go in, you set up an account, you have some keys, what we call keys. They're it's like in a key to your car. Instead of an email address that you sign up with, you have these keys that they assign to you, but nobody has access to those but you. So if you lose them, there's nobody you can call to say, hey, I need to set up my account again. So you got to protect your own, you got to be somewhat vigilant about your own security. But the bright side is nobody can shut you down. It's a platform that anyone can use and take advantage of, but you can't be deplatformed.
So what you're saying is Zuckerberg and China, which is ByteDance essentially, Elon Musk, these individuals will not be owning these platforms.
Right. Yeah, an interesting thing about Twitter, we talk about Twitter, depending on who you talk to, the Elon Musk Twitter is better than the Twitter that existed before, or it's worse, because of basically political ideology. If you're an Elon Musk fan, you like Twitter the way it is now. If you're not, you liked it the way it was before.
Yep.
But the problem is both Elon Musk and the other, I guess you can call the Jack Dorsey era Twitter, he wasn't always there during that time, but both have the ability and have exercised that ability to deplatform people on Twitter.
Yeah. And that's a big thing nowadays. It's actually been happening probably more on TikTok. We see a lot of hacking happening on Facebook and Instagram, but actual accounts getting shut down more on TikTok, and usually they make it right and people come back. But that is an interesting point, that if you're not a creator, you probably don't experience this. But when you become a creator and you're somebody like me who has thousands of videos or thousands of pieces of content, taking down my account would be massively detrimental to my business.
Oh, absolutely. It could shut you down.
Yeah.
If you're relying on YouTube, for instance, for your income, and for many content creators, it's their primary source of income, and that's how they make their living. And if they were shut down, then it could be detrimental to their life, their livelihood.
Yeah, big time. Okay, so as we talk about this Web3 and how it relates to social, so you've kind of talked about and explained the what that means, centralized versus decentralized, and it was read and write. Now it's going to be read, write, and own, which I think is, I think people will find a lot of value there. But then you mentioned the security piece. Now you're in charge of your own security. I have a feeling that's going to scare a lot of people.
Yeah, it does. I think we're not accustomed to being that vigilant about our own security. If our bank, we expect our bank to be able to help us get back into our bank account if we forget how to access it. So, they have a secret password you can call but you don't have that with Web3. And so you have to really protect your assets. And the way I think about it is your credit card, for instance. You wouldn't just go and hand your credit card to somebody on the street and say, hey, watch this for me. That's not something we typically do. You safeguard your credit card, even your credit card information, as willy-nilly as we are about, doing the slide things and sticking it in, the gas pump. We know they're not 100% secure. Yet, we don't just, publish our credit card information openly on the internet. So we want to feel the same way about our Web3 passcodes. We're not giving them out to people. We want to safeguard them. The difference is there's no way to get them back if you lose them. With your credit card company, if somebody hacks it, steals your identity, there are methods that they're painful methods, but you can work through the system and get that back. With Web3, that's not possible. So you really have to step up the vigilance a little bit. And that's just a payoff for the extra level of freedom that you have.
Yeah. It's a give and take, I suppose.
Yeah.
Now, as I look through Web3, there's some terms that have become commonplace, and NFTs, blockchain, the metaverse, tokenization. I think those have become somewhat common terms ish. A lot of people have a misconception about what blockchain actually is. Blockchain, to most, they just think crypto, but blockchain is actually not that. I mean, it does have an association with crypto, but it's going to have an association with real estate too. It's going to be like the Carfax of real estate, right? So maybe can you help? I'd love to hear from you. What is your take on explaining what blockchain is to the people who think that it's just a crypto thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. Blockchain technology is a powerful new technology. It does power cryptocurrencies, but it has many, many more use cases beyond cryptocurrency. And essentially what it is it's an extra layer of technology for the internet that allows anyone to, I guess, create data in a different sort of way, in a more secure kind of way. And so if you look at Web 2, it's mostly based on tables. And if you're familiar with, like spreadsheets and that kind of thing, that a table can be easily manipulated. Data can be easily, erased or deleted. It can be changed once it's published. With blockchain technology, those things are not possible. So if you, for instance, publish your financial data on a blockchain, and a chain, I call it blockchain because it literally is a chain of blocks, and each block is like a data set that's been published. And so once that's published, it can't be changed. And that's why blockchain is so powerful, is because you can do things like provenance with art. And so once you establish provenance for a particular set of valuable piece of art, you know that it's real. You know that it's valuable. You know that it is what it purports to be. And that's not going to change because you have the certificate that proves it. And that certificate cannot be changed. It's immutable. So blockchain technology has a lot of these different features that our current internet does not have. And one of those is enhanced security, along with that immutability. And so I don't think you have to know all about how it works to be able to use it. And so if you talk to people about the internet, a lot of people don't know how it works, but they're happy that when they log on, it works.
Yeah, it's a good point. That's a good point. That's what I tell real estate agents all the time. I'm like, blockchain is going to be, it's going to be within our business, probably within the next 12 months, if not sooner. And I said, it's just going to be, it's going to make transacting more seamless, probably much more efficient. And you're just going to have to trust it. And before long, it's going to become commonplace. And I always encourage them. I'm like, you should just go Google it and go read about it. Like,
And you're not going to know
know
it's there. It's just like the internet. You log onto a browser, you go around and you're looking at websites, but you don't really know that underneath all of that, what it is just a set of numbers.
Yeah.
Your website address is just a IP address, which is a set of numbers. And so you don't need to know all that to be able to use it, but it works. And
it's like a digital filing cabinet.
Yeah, exactly.
That everybody has access to. Now you don't have to drive to the courthouse to access, the deed.
Yeah. And when you have all your mortgage deeds and marriage certificates and, auto registrations and all that, openly accessible on the blockchain, it'll be so much easier to prove that you own that vehicle, that you own your home, that you have these assets, and then you'll be able to sell them online. And in 20 years, the internet's going to be so different than what we experience it today. And it's just going to be commonplace. Nobody's going to question.
Yeah. It's kind of like, when the car phone came out and we're like, why do we need that? Like, that just seems a little overkill. Why don't you just wait till you get home? And now I always tell people, if I leave the house, I'd rather leave the house naked than without my cell phone, because I'd feel more uncomfortable without my cell phone than I would naked.
Yeah.
That's how crazy
true.
things have changed.
It's true.
So I've read that even so, like, social security numbers are going to go away, and we're all going to be NFTs at some point. Have you heard the same? Is that true?
Yeah, there's a lot to be said about that. They are talking about tokenizing everything, and there is that possibility that, maybe someday social security numbers will be replaced. I think it's a little farther down the road, but I do see a day when just about everything you do will have some kind of tokenization involved. And so you go to a concert, your tickets will be basically tokens. You walk up and you scan your cell phone to get into the gate instead of handing them a physical ticket.
Yeah.
And
that's already happening in most.
It's already happening. But the cool thing about that is that tokenized ticket is not just a concert ticket. It's also a digital asset. And just think 20 years from now, your favorite band plays their last concert and you have the concert ticket on your phone. It's a digital tokenized asset. And then 20 years later, that could be worth something more than just a ticket, right?
I don't think anybody actually even keeps their digital tickets, because we haven't been wired to think that way. Like, if I went to a World Series game in 2000, in fact, I did this. The Boston Red Sox won the World Series. They were here in St. Louis, and I kept my tickets. I actually sold them. But I thought to keep that, you know what I mean? But now I use digital tickets all the time. I'm a season ticket holder, and I don't ever even think about how I can even access old tickets. I don't even think about it.
Yeah. And right now you wouldn't even think that they would hold any value after the event, which they may not in an intrinsic sense. But if they were tokenized assets, then they would have value just in that sense. And they're trackable, because they're on a blockchain, they've been tokenized. You can see what the trail of ownership is. And so if you're the only person that's ever owned that ticket, and you have a ticket to a historic event that only took place one time, it's never going to happen again, that could become a valuable asset.
It's interesting. This is all very interesting. All right, let me pump the brakes and let's pull back. And, obviously, and if you're watching this, you see that, first of all, Alan is floating in space. That's cool. That's probably also going to become common, but also he's floating next to a book, and it's called Web3 Social. And so, you've kind of, we've talked a little bit about this, but I guess maybe we can go a little bit deeper to understand. All right, what is this going to look like? Is Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and TikTok, are they just going to vanish, and this Web3 world is going to take over? Or what do you envision there?
I'm probably a little different than most of my Web3 peers. I don't think Facebook is going to disappear, or Twitter or TikTok. I think what's going to happen is, more than likely, these platforms are going to adopt Web3 technology at some point.
You
They're
mean
already
let go of control?
Well, I don't know if they will do that completely, but I think that they will adopt the technology for their own purposes. And then consumers will have the ability to decide, okay, do I go with the Facebook platform, where there is still that possibility of being deplatformed, but I still have access to billions of users on their platform, and use whatever Web3 derivative technology they decide to implement? Or do I go to this smaller, more niche platform where I can find my particular audience and have more ownership and more control over that audience and my content and my account, even though it's smaller? And I think a lot of people are going to be very happy with that small. I know that I will. If I'm reaching my audience on a platform that is small, and I can monetize that audience without fear of demonetization or deplatforming, then I'm going to be there.
Interesting. And, the first thing I was thinking too, though, is that these platforms are going to have to adjust and probably be less strict about some of their current rules, because guess what's going to happen? The second that you demonetize or shut down someone's account, they're going to be like, they're going to give you the middle finger and be like, fine, I'm going over to Web3. I'm gone. Now you've just lost me.
When that option becomes more ubiquitous, and it's a real viable option for the everyday creator, and the creator economy is growing, so when there are enough creators who can make that threat and make it stick, then I think the platforms will change their policies.
Yeah, fascinating, interesting. Okay, so as we talk about that, and it's good to get your opinion, because we all understand that it is just, in fact, an opinion. When you talk about niche, that's a very taboo, common topic that us social media, quote unquote, experts talk about, and we're talking about it regularly. Because, the world is shifting. Gen Z is, as you probably know, Alan, the best marketers in the world are studying Gen Z, not the people with money, which goes against what we think as entrepreneurs and business operators, right? But I've learned the best marketers are studying the next generation, because the next generation is driving where things are going. Yeah. And so as you think about, and so that those younger generations now are shifting the way we think. It's no longer about virality and popularity. It's about, I want to niche down and I want to be unique. And they're poo-pooing on Victoria's Secret and things like that. These visions that have been put in our head that is perfection, or that's the way we're supposed to look, which is great, by the way. It's phenomenal for society in general. But as you're talking about niching down, and most of our audience is still very much in the real estate field. So I'm gonna go down that path, because when we talk about niche, we talk about niching down primarily to community. We talk about niching down to interests as well, because I do believe that's very incredibly important. But when you're talking about niching down to community, are consumers going to have the ability to build their own niche platforms, or are they going to be building a platform within a platform, almost like a Facebook group?
I see a day when creators will be able to establish their own niche platforms using protocols that will be easily accessible. So what do I mean by that? I went up onto a website just a couple of weeks ago and created my own token, the Taylor token. And I got 1 million of them and sitting in my digital wallet. And I passed some of them out to some people, who have collected my posts as NFTs on my newsletter platform, Paragraph. It's not my platform. It is an actual platform that it's Substack alternative. But I have a newsletter there, and I write things and people collect them as NFTs. And when they do, I send them some Taylor tokens. All right. So what can they do with those? Well, I'm still working out what that actually looks like long term, but those tokens could be a catalyst for my own community on Discord or somewhere else. And a community or an author's community or a creator's community doesn't necessarily have to be in any one location. So you can build it across platforms, and you can build your community in such a way that you are not tied to any one particular platform. And you can do that using blockchain technology.
Wow. That's fascinating. So let's continue on this conversation. So that's future talk, more near-term talk. And you mentioned, you will probably lean Web3 because of the niche perspective. So as it relates to, and I know this, maybe you don't put this hat on a regular basis, so maybe I'm challenging you here, but as a real estate professional, I'm going to use myself as an example. So I have built a very large TikTok audience around a niche community. It's the Lake of the Ozarks. And it was just kind of just by chance. But now I'm really running down that rabbit hole, and it's proving to be very successful. I'm, thousands and 10,000s of views, hundreds of thousands and engagement and opportunities, and just crazy fun stuff is happening. And I'm living in that world to provide that proof of concept to a real estate agent, or really any business owner, to say, you become the aggregator of all things around a community. People will flock to it because they love their community. So when if I come to you, Alan, and say, man, you're the expert on this stuff, you see what I'm doing in the Web 2 world, how should I start thinking ahead for Web3 with what I'm doing around being the authority on a community?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what you want to do is you want to build your systems around the needs of your niche, your community. And Web3, what Web3 marketers are talking about is sort of a step up from what you're currently doing. In Web 2, you go to a platform and you build a community. So whatever your niche is, whatever your topic is, so you go to Facebook groups and you start a group, you're building that community, but you're using a platform. In Web 3, you build the platform around the community. And so you already have a community right there on TikTok. What you need to be thinking about is, well, what if there was no TikTok? Or what if all of a sudden I lose my TikTok audience? If you're on Web 2, you're already thinking about moving people off of TikTok into your own personal funnel. So you probably have a newsletter. You probably have an email list, a website where you drive people to sign up for your list. Well, in Web 3, you can still do that, but you don't necessarily have to do it through email. You can do it through digital wallets. And the benefit of that to your community is, well, they don't have to give up their email address. I get tons of email from people that maybe I signed up for something 5, 6, 10 years ago. I don't even remember what it was now, but I'm still getting emails, right? Unless I opt out and unsubscribe. But you don't have to go through that process anymore with Web3. You can just do a digital wallet. And once you get tired of that community, or you want to move on, you just disconnect your wallet from that community. And
what about, could you sell it?
You could. Yeah, you could. And so in some cases, if your If your community offer is based on a tokenized assets or an NFT, you could, in some cases, sell that NFT. In some cases, you can't. It depends on the community. Sometimes they don't want you to sell it, so they'll make it a what they call a soul-bound token, and then it's just bound to you. You can have it, but nobody else can. But if it's not soul-bound, then yeah, you can sell it to someone, and now they're a member of that community.
Wow. Interesting. This
Yeah.
is all fascinating stuff. So I don't want to assume, because obviously I'm narrating this conversation and we're running short on time. What have I not asked you that you feel is something that would be very important for our audience to understand or know?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, okay, we've talked about security, we've talked about ownership and so on. So let's just talk about monetization just a little bit. There are platforms where you can monetize, and the monetization takes place in different ways. Okay, and so on Hive, which is a social blogging platform, and they have several different interfaces that you can go to. Some are video based and some are text based. But the gist is you create content, people upvote your content, and then you earn rewards based on how many people have upvoted your content, what their influence is on the platform, and several other factors. And so you could earn anywhere on one post, anywhere from a few cents to $100 or more. People have earned several $100s on one single post, and so it's a rewards based system. There are other systems where the monetization takes place through tipping, and that tipping can be wallet to wallet. So for instance, you create content, I like what you're doing, I say I'm going to throw a few satoshis at Jeff. Those are the smallest units in Bitcoin cryptocurrency. And I say, I'm just going to tip him. And so I send you some, or it could be in another cryptocurrency, maybe Matic or Ethereum or whatever. The other way tips can occur is just like on Hive, I click a button and that generates a tip. And you get a portion of that. Maybe I get a portion of that. And I can even determine on publish, for instance, I can determine how much of it you get as the creator and how much of it I get as the reader. And the default is 80-20 toward your favor, but I can change that if I want. Then there are what we call collectibles, digital asset collectibles or tokens. And you can create a piece of content, and I can collect that as a piece of content, hold it in my wallet for as long as I want. And someday if I decide, okay, Jeff Fitzer, man, this guy, he's really built his business. He's a rock star. He's worth a lot of money now. A lot of people like him. I wonder if I can sell this. Put it out there. I sell it, and I can earn on that token, but also you as the creator can get a royalty on that sale. And so that's another way that you can earn by selling tokens and collecting royalties when they resell. So there are different monetization options in the Web3 space, and all of them, I think, have their use cases.
Very interesting. It sounds a lot different than the influencer world we live in now.
It's very, very different. The Web 2 world is based on attention. The whole idea is let me put myself out there, see how many people I can get to pay attention to what I'm doing, get them to follow me, get them to click that like button. I got to grow my subscriber list, grow my YouTube channel. I have to grow. And the more I grow it, the more I can make. It's sort of a mirror of what we do, what the advertising model has been like throughout the 20th century. The more people watching TV, the more the channel can charge for their sponsorship spots, right? Sort of how the way Web 2 works now. With Web 3, you have a little bit more control as the creator on how you want to monetize your content. You're not driven by, oh, I got to have 1 million eyeballs if I want to make a living.
I think that's going to make a lot of people take a deep, like a breath of fresh air. Like, oh, sweet. I don't have to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you've ever lost an account, or if I got locked out of a Facebook account, and it was my own fault. It was just stupid. Uh, I went in one day and elected to do two-factor authentication, but then I didn't set up my authenticator right away. Put it off and then forgot. And then one day I couldn't get into my account and it got hacked. And Facebook deleted the account. I had more than several thousand followers. And it really ticked me off. But I learned something valuable about that that's relevant to Web3 is I don't have to worry about that. If I lose my account, it's because, well, just like in Facebook, it's because I made a mistake. But in Web2, you don't even have to make a mistake and you can lose an account. Or, somebody just doesn't like what you're saying and you can lose access to your audience. So with Web3, that's going to be very different.
I love that. Two more questions. If this is just because I'm curious. You clearly know a lot about crypto. Have you made a lot of money in crypto? Did you make a lot of money in crypto before it crashed?
I am not, I got into crypto around 2018. So it was right at the last bull run. I will say, I'm not a crypto millionaire and I'm not a day trader. So once I discovered crypto, I got in, I bought some Bitcoin, I've got some Ethereum, I got a few other things that I like. I'm still waiting for the next bull run. I think it's going to happen. And I did see my XRP go up in value recently with the Ripple case judgment being made public. Ripple won their lawsuit. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but Ripple won their lawsuit with the SEC. And that caused a huge spike. I owned some Ripple, so I've benefited from that. And but yeah, I think I'm on the upside in terms of gains, but I'm certainly not a millionaire
Why
or
do
a
you
billionaire even.
Why do you think it's going to rebound?
Well, I just looking at the cycles, the bull bear cycles, about every 4 years historically we've seen a market bull run in the crypto space, and I don't see any reason for that to change, even though right now there's a huge amount of scrutiny from the regulatory side on crypto. I think in the long run that's going to wash. We're going to get some legislation that is meaningful. There's going to be regulation. The question is whether or not it's going to be meaningful regulation. And I think in the long run, crypto is going to wash out real well.
Fascinating. It's really, really fascinating. What would be your best parting thought for our audience? And the second part to that question is, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, great question. So I would say you don't necessarily have to jump into Web3 today. But I would keep an eye on what's developing, what's happening, get familiar with what's going on in Web3 and keep an eye on it so that you can know when the right time is. And if you're familiar with the phases of technological adoption, then that at some point the crowds are going to show up. And right now we're in the early adoption stage. I think we're getting pretty close to the early majority stage. But when the late majority shows up, that's going to be too late. So you want to get in fairly early, but you don't necessarily have to get in now. So I would keep an eye on what's going on. So how can you reach me? You can reach me at authorallantaylor.com. That's my website. I'm on Twitter as Alan Taylor. And my professional website is tailoredcontent.com. So you can reach me at either one of those websites. And paragraph.xyz / tailored content is my email or my newsletter. So if you want to see what I'm writing about on Web3, then you can subscribe there.
How can we get our hands on your book?
The book is at Amazon, and you can also find it at any place books are sold. So it's distributed through Ingram Spark, which means books and libraries all have access to it. But it's also on Amazon, Web3 Social, how creators are changing the World Wide Web, and you can too.
I love it. Alan, it has been a pleasure. I'd definitely like to stay in touch, man. You're talking about something different than most. And so my question, or my request to you, from our Drunk on Social perspective, because I think our audience will find this pretty fascinating, is as you see new topics and things that we should be discussing or that you want to share with our audience, just reach back out to us, man. I'd love to have you back on as often as you feel it's necessary. And
Cool.
I'd love to keep talking because, and selfishly for me and Tristan, if nobody else wants to listen, we do, and we want to be out ahead. And so it's important for us to align with people like you.
Great. Thanks a lot. I've enjoyed this. Thanks for having me on.
Likewise. Thank you, brother.
LabCoatAgents Podcast.